everybody, welcome to another quarantine edition of the Zelo Zone. I am your host, Matt Bacaling, as always, and today with me is the Pink Dream Alex Gracia. Welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Greetings.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Absolutely. So glad that we could do this. Anytime that we can socially interact, always fun to add a little bit of entertainment and distraction to our lives. And really, we would be about just a week and a half away from what would have been Zelo Pro's next event, where we were supposed to finally have you once again competing against Lainey for the Women's Championship, a match that was rescheduled already from January. Fingers crossed we get to make it happen at some point.
Third time's a charm. This has happened twice. So it's like the third time has to happen. But you know what? I feel like that third time, because of the anticipation and because of the situations, it's going to be like, okay, it was worth the wait. That's
so much natural buildup already that by the time it does happen, we'll be ready to pop off from the very beginning. So I always start these conversations off with, it's crazy, unprecedented times that we are living in. How is quarantine treating you? What are things that you're doing to stay sane? What does your schedule look like these days?
So I feel like if I think about the situation too much, that's when I go a little crazy, and then you tend to scare yourself. Yeah. So it's I've just been keeping the same routine every day. I've been able to actually keep up with my nutrition and cook as much as I like.
That's huge.
And do workouts. I miss weights so much, but it's making me have to be a little bit more creative. And then I started my Spanish classes, which I needed to do. So that's taking up a lot of my time because it is very confusing.
Are you taking online classes to learn Spanish?
Yes. So it's a very interactive type of conversational Spanish class. So
okay.
Hopefully whenever I go there next time, I'll be a little bit more fluent.
Right on. So, yeah. And do you have a home gym or some kind of setup? Or are you doing mostly just body weight workouts?
So I've been doing Insanity Max.
Okay. Right on.
And it's hard. It's so hard. And so a few years ago, well, I've actually done the Insanity program a couple times.
Okay.
Throughout my college life. But I was oh, let me try Insanity Max. And I was this is so hard. But I feel I'm getting a lot done to where it'll be good for my cardio and just all that. So I'm trying to do that every day. But
yeah, good for you. I mean, there's only so many things that we can do right now. And any way that you can switch it up and try it, especially if it's something that's challenging you when we can't go to a gym, it's the best thing you can ask for at this point, really.
Exactly. I'm it's something every day, and then I'll just try to do something light in the evening, abs, and then I have one dumbbell, so I do as much as what I can with that one dumbbell.
That's so crazy. So, and you're in Texas, correct?
Yes.
So how is the climate in Texas going on with all of this stuff? Is it pretty similar to the rest of the country as it appears on TV and social and everything like that? Are you noticing any differences or nuances being in a southern state?
I feel there's always people on the road in Houston.
Where are you going?
That's what I'm saying. It's I have my days that I go to the grocery store just for cooking. It's well, I have to go get stuff, but that's the only places I go, and I'm why? Where are all these people? What's going on? I don't understand. But
so, are you officially on a lockdown via state regulations?
Yes, I believe so. Okay. So only essential businesses and stuff are open.
Yeah, man. So crazy. So prior to all of this kind of going down, your schedule is obviously very busy. You're working all over the place, and I know that you are pretty regular in working in Houston and for Reality of Wrestling, and as well as going down to Mexico. Talk to me a little bit about where you got started in the wrestling business. I know you've talked about it before in other interviews and stuff like that, but just for a little bit of background on our end, you started training in Texas and eventually worked your way into Mexico, which we'll get to in a little bit, but I'm just curious about where your start came from.
Well, actually, so I'm from San Antonio, Texas area. So I started at Texas Wrestling Academy September 11th, 2017.
Okay.
And then I made my debut the end of February of 2018. And then about 5-6 months after that, that's when I got contacted by Stardom.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up leaving New Year's Eve of 2018 for Stardom, and then I got to celebrate like my 1-year debut anniversary in Japan.
Wow. So you were wrestling in Japan within your first year of being in professional wrestling.
Yeah, I was terrified.
That's incredible. And had you ever been to Japan before? Have any kind of background with
Never.
Japanese culture? Oh man. What was that
Never.
culture
And
shock
so
like?
out of all the foreigners, I was the only American.
Oh wow.
And so that was like just a culture shock too, because it's like, oh, okay, I'm living with girls that also speak English, but it was just so crazy. Like I'm the little lone American over here, but I met like some of like the best girls over there, and I enjoyed my time over there so much. And so a few months prior to leaving to Japan is when I started to make the trips to Reality of Wrestling.
Okay.
So
you're going from San Antonio to Houston.
Yes. So I worked at a gym every day from 8 to 12, and then I'd go home, eat, shower, drive to Houston.
Oh, wow.
Have training there, come back, and it would feel like sometimes if I even got like 2 hours of sleep, and then I'd go back to work and then kind of do the same thing over. And so it was just, there was one night I was just totally exhausted from driving. And so when I was in Japan, it really like motivated me just because there was so much amazing talent around me that I was like, I remember calling Reality Wrestling and I was like, when I get down there, I'm going to move there full time. And so I was already making my arrangements. And within 2 weeks of being back from Japan, I was in Houston.
Unreal. How long were you in Japan?
2 months.
2 months. Wow. That's a good stint of time.
I know. And I wanted to be like, I told them, I was like, I will go longer. Like some people, they're like, oh, 2 months is like a lot for me. And I'm like, no, I'll just keep me over there. I like to travel, and I don't really like get too homesick. So I'm like
tell me about that experience though, being in Japan for 2 months. So you're living with other girls and roommates who are either from the States or from all around the world. Are you also working there? Are you just wrestling full time and training full time? What does that schedule look like while you're there for 2 months?
So with Stardom specifically, like you only go there and work for them. So we were wrestling every weekend, training during the week, and then during our off days, like some of the girls and me, we would go and like sightsee and do that. So like I feel like I got the best experience of, oh, this is what it's like living the dream is in the sense of I'm doing what I love to do, but also like experiencing the world.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was like, if I could just like get this feeling like wherever I go, I'm like, this is exactly like what makes me happy.
Unreal. That's amazing. That sounds so much fun too. So you come back from Japan, you move to Houston, then you start working for Reality of Wrestling on a regular basis, and you start training there as well?
Yes.
Right on. And you're still there in Houston?
Yes, I'm still here.
Nice.
I've been here like a month now. I mean, a year and a couple months now.
Okay. So, I mean, essentially, you are roughly 3 years into your wrestling career at this point. Is that about right?
Training, yeah. So, yeah, and then like 2 years about for debut.
Just active wrestling. Wow. So then at what point did you make your way down to Mexico?
So I had a few promotions over there like contact me. So the week I was actually supposed to go work for you is when I was going to make my Mexico debut at the Crash. Okay. But traveling was just all over the place.
It's a terrible weekend for travel.
It was the worst weekend. So like I was like I didn't get to do either one of those. I was so sad. But I had done this seminar with someone from CMLL, and so they stayed in contact, and they actually like invited me over to go to Mexico, and they're like, you can train here, like you may or may not get to wrestle in a show, but it's pretty much like a 2-week scholarship. You can come and like train at Arena Mexico and stuff, and I'm like, I'm all for that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so I go to Mexico City and train there, and then luckily, like, I did get to make my debut for CMLL, so that was my Mexico debut. And just training there, I'm like, I want to go back so bad, and so that's why I'm like over here trying to learn Spanish.
Sure, might as well. I mean, that's awesome, and then you can utilize the varied styles and utilize your experience from Japan and Mexico and lucha and American and Japanese, and just be fluent all the way around. So I guess let's take a step back for a second. How did you get into this, to get to this point of pursuing professional wrestling as a full-time job or a career, to the point where you are spending months in Japan to actually let this be your reality? Like, what led you to this point? Was this always a childhood dream? Did it come later on in life?
I've had like a crazy life story.
Okay.
So I will try not to like blab on, but like, so, I grew up with like wrestling being around me, like whether it was like from my cousins or my brother. And so I was always exposed to it, but never did I think like I'm going to do that someday, or I want to do that someday. It's just like you watch movies and you don't think like I'm going to be a big actor in Hollywood. Like it just doesn't seem like realistic. And so it was like instilled in my house and my head that it's like, you're going to go to college, you're going to get a job, and that's what's going to happen. So I actually play like competitive softball, and so that was pretty much like my life, and I could have really pursued it to the point to where I would have gone somewhere to get a scholarship, but I just kind of like fell out of love with it.
Okay.
My senior year. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to go to college, and I want to have like the college experience, but I know I want to be involved in sports and entertainment in some way. So I go to Texas A&M University, and pursue like sports reporting and media and learn all about that stuff, and doing a lot of journalism.
With wrestling in mind, or potentially like journalism?
Like I was like, I want to be on Sports Nation, or on the side, I want to be a sideline reporter. Like I was just like, I'm going to be on ESPN.
Yeah. Okay. Right on.
And so I was just doing that. And, luckily after I graduated, like I had a lot of opportunities with that. Like I was working at a radio station, and then I got a job as like a multimedia journalist at, one of their local television stations. And so, like, I was very lucky because it is hard to get TV and radio jobs outside of college. Yeah. And so, and the fact that, like, I wasn't happy, I had so many friends, like, just ticked off, like, you have, like, 2 jobs right now.
Impressive.
And I was just, like, I wasn't happy at all. And so, one of my friends who actually lived in College Station with me at the time still, she's like, well, I'm going to move to Dallas and start working there. And I just started to get in my head, you know what, I'm just going to leave everything and start over in Dallas because I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but it's not this.
Sure. Okay. So
I left my job, left everything in College Station, moved to Dallas, started working in sales. I had all these like random jobs just trying to make it, but I was like, I'm living the life. Like I feel free.
In the big city, living it up.
Yeah. I was like, I'm young, I'm making money. But then again, it was just like as time went on, like I'm someone that I need to be like actively pursuing something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And I wasn't pursuing anything that I was passionate about. Like I was having fun, and it was all fine and dandy until I was like, okay, if I keep doing this, like 3 years is going to go by, and then 5 years, and then 10 years, and then 15 years, and I'm going to be like, what am I doing? And I'm not happy doing what I'm doing. So my year lease was coming up, and my parents just told me, they're like, well, before you just sign your lease again, why don't you move back home and just kind of try to figure things out again? And I was like, okay, so another round of just trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
So I moved back home, and um, so I like to write. Like I
Okay.
like to do creative writing,
Yeah.
and just in my spare time, I had written a novel.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, well, and then my mom read it and she was like, she has like an English major and everything. And she's like, this is pretty good. She's like, have you ever thought about pursuing this? And I'm like, maybe that's what I'm supposed to do.
Okay. Okay.
So then, I apply for Louisiana University and I get a full ride to get my master's degree in creative writing from this
Wow.
book.
No kidding.
And then I was like, well, I need a job. So I applied to like an ESPN radio job over there. And they were like, we can't put you on there yet, but we have a producer job for you. So I was like, money?
Yeah.
Like,
ESPN
I'm
radio?
gonna go,
Right on.
I'm gonna get free college, I'm gonna work. Okay, and so I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm doing next. Like, I'm just kind of like going with the flow.
Sure.
And it's just funny because, like, especially while I was at home and had, like, a lot of downtime, like, wrestling kept, like, popping up again. Like, I had, like, one of my best friends, because I had talked about it a few times in college, but I just always erased it from my mind because it's like, no, I have to finish college.
Sure.
And it just kind of seemed like a sign because it's like one of my best friends from college, she messaged me and she's just like, I'm watching this wrestling right now and this just looks like something you would totally do. I don't know why you never did it. And I was like, yeah, but it's okay. And I'm just like blowing it off again. But I'm like, yeah, it is like really cool. But
were you watching it regularly at that point or not really?
It was just like not like consistently, just because school and stuff.
Sure.
Like,
but it was there.
I was mostly watching like ESPN and Fox or just college stats because I was in charge of a lot of the big sports at A&M.
Okay.
So it's like that was like all year round. Like all of a sudden my life was college sports for 4 years. And then I had a family dinner. And my cousin, who actually was one of the ones who exposed me to wrestling when I was younger, his daughter was watching wrestling like on his phone. And I was like just watching, and I was like, gosh, and I just like felt like excited. And I was like, this is just so cool. And she's like super into it. And he's just like, yeah, I told you like a long time ago you should have done that. And he's like, I don't know why you didn't do that. And then I was like, and then I started like having a little conversation about it because I was like, well, I don't even know how to start. Like, I don't know what to do for that, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, there's a wrestling school down the street. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, it was like Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy. And then my aunt started telling me how like she went to high school with Shawn Michaels.
No way.
Yeah. And so, like, this big conversation, I'm just like, And he started, like, looking it up, and he's like, look, it's Texas Wrestling Academy, like, formerly Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy. And, of course, like, Daniel Bryan went there, and, like, all these huge names. And so, like, I was like, you know what? I was like, it says there's, like, a week tryout. I was like, if I hate it, then I hate it. But at least, like, I tried it. Because I was like, at this point, I really didn't know my next step. I was just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna go be a writer. Like,
yeah. And had you gone to Louisiana already at this point, or was that before?
No,
okay,
I was still at home.
Got it.
So it was just like beginning of the summer. So I was like, school starts later.
Yeah.
So I messaged Rudy Boy Gonzalez, who is the lead trainer at the school, and I was like, hey, like, I'm interested in checking things out, blah blah blah. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, make sure your cardio is good. The day one of the tryout, September 11th, and we'll after 1 week, like, we'll talk, like, if you make it, like, and I was like, okay, so pretty much, like, I went and never left. That's exactly
Amazing.
How it happened.
Yeah. So it took to it very, very quickly, and the rest is history at this point. So then you never pursued the creative writing master's degree or went to Louisiana or anything like that. My goodness.
Nope. I was like, I stayed home and I told my parents, I was like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler.
And were they supportive of this pursuit? Like, what was there something that they had pushed you to be like as you were younger and growing up and going to college initially, that they had like high hopes for you and then you went and started being a professional wrestler?
I don't think they knew how to take it.
Yeah.
So like I'm someone where it's like I do have like a lot of like crazy ideas, and of course it's like, okay, well, I left everything in at Texas A&M and was in a good position to go to Dallas to do random stuff, to like go home to be like, I don't know, I'm gonna go to get my master's degree. And so like now they're just kind of like, and so like I was laying everything out, and I kind of almost had to like put a presentation together for them
Sure,
to be
and
like,
just pitch it to them.
I think this is why this would work. And I was like, everything, like, and it was everything that I learned just from like that 1 week of being around it and what I knew from just like my previous knowledge. I was like, I think I've been always actively pursuing things that like were a part of this business
Sure.
and this sport. And I was like, I was like, I'm just so happy being there. And I think like at that point they were just like, well, you know what, like, we haven't seen her this happy in a long time. Like,
Sure.
let her just keep doing it. And they even, like, to this day, like, every time, like, they see me, because they don't get to see me wrestle all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
But when they do, they're like, you're actually not that bad.
You've managed to rack up a few accomplishments in this period of time.
Yeah, like, when I, like, told them, like, oh, I'm going to go to Japan, they're like, what? What do you mean? This is a scam. And I was like, honestly, I think it's a scam too. I was like, it's Stardom. Why would they be calling me?
Unreal.
So they just like, okay. And so like every time I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to Mexico. And I'm like, don't worry. It's a very notable promotion.
Yeah. So, okay. So, and I think to your point, you're right. You had all of this different experience from a background in athleticism to media and journalism and mass communications and all of these things and creative writing in general, and just kind of all being pieces of the puzzle in professional wrestling that kind of worked to your advantage. And then actually getting into the ring and actually having the mechanics and the technical and cardio stuff. How did you take to that initially? Like, was it what you expected it to be? Was it harder? Did you take to it really easily and naturally?
Well, so I knew from day one, everyone there was trying to make me die. Like, they
just putting you to the test.
I know they wanted me to quit because I mean, like, it's hard to take to me at first. Like, literally my first day of training, it's like I came in like pink yoga pants and I had makeup on because I would always come from work.
Okay, yeah.
And so I would like always like kind of be done up and I would like change there. But like it would just be like something insane, like 50,000 burpees or something. But it's like, so the very first day I like was crawling to my couch and I just told my parents, like, I was like, this is no joke.
Yeah.
And just even learning how to run the ropes, like I have pictures like from the beginning that my mom took, like it looks like whip marks.
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty intense those first couple weeks.
Yeah, I was beat up and I was just like, I love it.
That's awesome. So at no point did it scare you off, or you second thought like maybe I'm in over my head? Like you took to it like a fish to water from day one?
No, it's like one of those things, like I'm just always like, you know what, like I'm not the first one to do this and I'm not the last one to do this. No doubt, so right. I'm like, I just always tell myself, I'm like, it's mental. And I'm like, it's going to be hard. And it's like, I like doing things that are scary.
Yeah. That's good.
And, I mean, like, I'm a very, like, anxious person, but I'm just like, okay, like, it's one of those things, like, on the top rope, like, okay, 1, 2, 3, just jump. Right. Even though I hate height.
You just do it.
Everyone makes me fly.
Yeah. That's amazing. Oh man. And did you have any kind of gymnastics background or anything like that either?
No, just softball and track and volleyball a few years.
Right on. So now, I mean, some transferable skills, but not nearly as many as you may have gotten doing other things going into it, really.
Not really, and I wish I did. Like, I've even, like, since I started, like, just even, like, looked up types of, like, gymnastics classes or something, just so it's, like, I like to know I'm, like, doing things correctly.
Right.
But, no, I wish I did, but
It's
No, I was
but it's
doing
but it's
all the,
working
like,
for you. So I mean, you mentioned where you wore pink yoga pants to your first day of training, and you're kind of all pink everything in terms of your persona. Is that just Alex? Is that you on a regular basis, or is that something that you kind of turned up to 10 for your wrestling persona, or how did the Pink Dream come about?
it was definitely a normal thing in my lifestyle.
Yeah,
It is like turned up to 10 in the sense where I think I'm just exposed a lot more now.
sure.
Because
Everyone
when
just
I
gets to
was
see
trying
it.
to figure out like how do I want my gear to be and this and that and this and that, and I was just so torn, and I'm just like, what can I like be known as? That everyone is everything now, so I'm like everything's taken.
Yeah.
What what can make me different? And like my trainer Rudy Gonzalez, like at the time, every single day he's like, and I'm like, what? And there was like one day he's like, you wear pink every freaking day. I don't know why you're not gonna just be something with pink. And then I was like, well, you know what? I was like, my favorite diamond in the world called the Pink Dream, and I was like, maybe I could just take that and run with it, and that's exactly kind of what I did.
Yeah.
And so
And it
just
works.
kind of did all that, and so then I made like the decision to make my hair pink and all that, which I was also terrified to do.
Were you?
So yes.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, I mean, I think it certainly works, and you play it up in all the right ways. And so you get to this point, you're starting to work, and you're going to Japan. And then, was it this past year that you had your tryout for WWE?
So that was it would have been like April.
It's like a year ago at this point?
2019. Yeah, about a year ago.
Right on. How was that experience, and how did that come about?
So it happened out of nowhere.
I feel like that happens a lot for you.
Well, I was like, I just remember like laying in bed, and it's like, okay, I was kind of just like home, and it's like I got home from like the best experience that I felt like of my life, like from Japan, and I was like at home, and then I like woke up, and I was just like, you're invited, and I was like, is this spam?
It was via email?
Yeah, it was via email. And so it was like, you're invited. And I like sent a screenshot to my parents, and they're like, wow, is that real? And I'm like, I think so.
My goodness.
And so it was literally like, I only had like a month to get ready. Wow. And
so was this something that you were actively pursuing, or they approached you with the email essentially?
Well, I had made a profile like when I started wrestling. So I made a profile, and I don't know, I had kept more involved with Evolve.
Okay, yeah.
And so kind of like with Gabe, and so I will like send Gabe like matches and just be like, have him critique me and stuff like throughout, especially like my first year. And so like when I got back, he was just asking how Stardom was and everything. And then Mania week, I saw him, and I was like, guess what? I'm going to a tryout. And so he was just like, oh, that's awesome that you got the call. And I was like, yeah. And so I went, and it was just so surreal being there, because I'm like, this is like why you like do this, is Absolutely. To like be able to like be in a facility like this and stuff, and it's just like be around like other professionals. And I was like, the athletes in my tryout were insane. Yeah. Like I was like with Olympians and stuff. I was like, where do I like?
Crazy. Is there anyone from your class that got signed?
Yes, a few. So they've just recently like been, I think, like 4.
Okay. Yeah, because this was a year ago at this point.
Yeah, and at the last tryout, which was in March before all this quarantine stuff, I was like there, but we got sent home because the coronavirus.
Oh, it happened right around the time you were there.
Yeah, it was when WWE first started like doing the in-house shows.
Yeah.
So we were there for a tryout, and like our second day that we were told like we were gonna get sent home.
Oh wow.
So But there was one other girl that was from my first tryout there with me.
Got it.
So
Got it. So what is the tryout process like? I know it's like a couple day experience. You guys are doing all sorts of cardio and strength training, and I'm assuming doing some tryout and promos and stuff like that.
it's definitely like pushing you to your limit
Yeah.
for sure. And then yeah, it's you do your promo and workers get to do a match and stuff like that. I feel like the second tryout was going to be different than the first tryout.
Okay.
But I think they change it like every time. So you
Sure.
never know what to expect. You just like, I just know I need to have like my cardio game up.
Sure. Sure. Did you get any
And then
feedback?
I'll be like, everything will work itself out, but
As long as you're on
I'm
point with
sure
cardio.
I don't die.
Yeah. So did they provide you any feedback after the first tryout that you were able to take with you now your second time around?
Well, I think since I had just like finished my first year, just in there, it was just like, just keep building your name and getting exposure and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But kind of like the generic
Sure. Sure.
stuff. So, I mean, that's what I tried to do as
Yeah.
much as possible.
Right. So I mean, by the time we end up posting this, today was a very crazy day for WWE as they're going through a ton of cuts and laying people off and severing contracts and stuff like that. So the future is very uncertain, both in the wrestling world and the entertainment world in general. Everybody is certainly feeling everything that's going on right now. Does that, kind of change your perspective in terms of what the future has for you, in the next couple of months, or what you're pursuing? Are you doing a lot of creative writing now while you have free time, or what other things are you potentially exploring now that we are kind of where we are in the world?
Like, well, I know like one thing is that I really wanted to just like get like my physique like back on point because it seems like
no better time to do it, but it's hard to do in quarantine.
I got the call like after every single time like I would go out of the country, and so I'm like, why? It's almost
Crazy
like Alex
time.
is going out of the country. Let's call her in.
Yeah.
She's been snacking. So, like, that's what I've just, like, really been trying to focus on and just, like, really have a plan on, like, how I want to be ready, like, once things are ready to go and stuff. It's, like, obviously I can't have, like, my in-ring training, but there is so many other elements to wrestling that aren't just, like, aren't in the ring. So that's what I'm mostly trying to work on. But as far as I feel like there was just so many things I was looking forward to, especially like March.
Yeah.
Like March was going to be a really exciting month for me, but I feel like opportunities that may not have happened or this or that or things are getting postponed. Like, I mean, like whatever's like meant for you will happen.
No doubt. Of course. I fully
like,
agree with that.
Yeah. So everyone's like in this, and I tell myself, I'm like, everyone's in the same boat. So I'm not like going to be that like woe is me person because I'm just going to try to like keep my routine and like be as consistent as possible because it's like there are so many people getting the repercussions of this and it's so sad.
Yeah.
And
it is.
So just as long like I'm just trying to do like my part so this can end as soon as possible because like it's like I want to like go out and keep like living life too. Like it is hard, but it's as hopefully it just doesn't keep getting postponed.
Right.
But
it's all we can do. All we can do is do our part and make sure that we are helping in whatever way individually responsibly that we can. So when you're not training and meal prepping as extensively as you are, what is your go-to cheat meal? What is your guilty pleasure?
Pizza for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm actually having a cheat meal today. And
Good day. Right on.
I'm a binger. Like my roommate all the time is like, I don't understand how you can eat that much. So when like WrestleMania was going on, I skipped like my cheat meal the week before because I was like, I'm gonna have 2 cheat meals in a row.
Yeah.
Like they did turn into like cheat days, but I was like, okay, the theme of Saturday is going to be like bar food / junk food. So we had like pizza, like
amazing
chips and guac and French fries and just all this like, oh, it was amazing.
That's awesome.
And then Sunday, the theme of dinner was brunch. So it was like breakfast for dinner.
I love that.
So like we started with like, I did make fruit, and I was like, okay, so I'm starting a little bit healthy, but then it was like sausage biscuits and
just game
and
over.
Potatoes. And then I was like, then I made waffles, and then I ate like 6 waffles.
On me. Hey, I mean, it's when you're in quarantine and it's WrestleMania weekend, you do what you gotta do.
And then have you had the Diet Dr. Pepper cream soda?
I have not.
Those are my 2 favorite sodas in the world,
Okay.
and they put it in one soda.
No. Life-changing.
So I got that, and I got like vanilla ice cream, and was eating a float too. So
incredible, man! You did it right. That is the way to do it.
And we made mimosas, so it was
not?
a great cheat day.
Incredible. So what is your pizza? Do you have a favorite pizza place? Like I personally have never had pizza in Texas. I'm from Chicago, so like pizza is in our blood. But I'm just
Chicago pizza is amazing.
It's a game changer. So you've had pizza then, obviously, when you've been working in Chicago or been traveling there?
Yes. Like every time I go there, like New Jersey, New York, I'm like,
it's a rite of passage. You really have to. Just book to eat. I know so many people. That's like you wrestle your match, immediately go get pizza right afterwards. Have to.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's so good.
Here there's like some local spots. It isn't like the same. Like I'm really not like super picky. Like I just love pizza in general, but it's not on the same level as those places.
Which is fair. I think it's some places have your little niche places that you're able to find that can kind of hold their own. Other places not so much, but it's usually that's when traveling myself, that's my go-to is either find a pizza place or a sushi place and let that kind of be the standard bearer.
Sushi too. Like sushi, pizza, ice cream. Like, that'd be my last meal.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. You really can't. So I'm curious to not go back too far, but in terms of your creative writing, what was your novel about? Was it something that you that you did and it's kind of doing it just sitting there, or have you pursued it further after that point?
So funny thing is, I just had a friend who recently wrote a book.
Okay.
And got it published. Oh, wow. And we were just... it was after the Row Awards, actually. It's number 1 on Amazon and everything. Like, no way. He's doing well with it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I think I just posted about it, but it's called Back from the Future. And we were sitting at dinner after the Row Awards for Reality Wrestling, and I had told him, I was like, well, my mom actually told him.
Just mom bragging about you.
Alex wrote a book once, and then he was like, what? And I'm like, oh God, and then I gotta
bust it out.
Yeah, so I was telling him about it, and he was like, what? And so he's actually gotten me in contact with his publisher, and so I'm in pending process right now. And I was like, and I told him, I was like, listen, I was like, no matter what they say, whether they pick up my novel or not, I was like, I haven't touched that book in 2 years.
Yeah.
And just even going back and looking at it and reading it, and I was like, you don't know how thankful I am just for that, because I was like, that was a dream and a goal I had in life that I kind of just put on the back burner, because I did get so busy with wrestling, and I was like, now is the perfect time to kind of be able to work on it again and do that. And so I told him, I was like, no matter what they say, I was like, it forced me to write a formal proposal about it and do this. So I was like, if it doesn't work, I can always go give it to other publishers now. Yeah. But I was like, you kind of brought that book back into my life just by even getting me in contact. So I was like, thank you. So hopefully we're praying that awesome. They want to pick it up. That would be a dream come true. Yeah. I spent 2 to 3 years writing it.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, fingers crossed for you. That's exciting to know that something may come of it, and at this point in time, especially when there's not much else going on, and you can put a little bit of focus into that. That'd be very exciting to put out there.
Yeah, I would love that, because I feel that it was just a big like part of me, and just like it is something that I was like very passionate about, and it's like if I have it, I'm like I want to at least try to do something with it. And
For sure.
so just recently is like when my first like attempt to try something with it. So I was like that kind of like got me motivated with that again.
Yeah. Do you think you'd write more, whether a novel or other creative pieces?
Like if the opportunity presented itself, I think I would want to write more on the side of like a children's book.
Okay. Yeah.
A novel, like that took a long
It's a
time
lot of work.
and a lot of research and stuff like that. So it's like not that I wouldn't do the work, but it definitely is like I like to put everything into like projects I'm doing,
Yeah.
and I feel like especially like when wrestling starts up again. But I definitely like always thought about children's books, so that's something
fun.
hopefully that's something I can like put on my resume that could be a consistent project. I think would be cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'd love to be able to support that and check it out, especially with all the kiddos out there who are looking for something to read right now.
I know.
Incredible. Well, I appreciate the time. I think we've certainly learned a lot more about you and had some really fun stories. And what are some ways that anybody kind of watching or eventually listening can support you and discover kind of what you have going on, while they can't watch you wrestle?
I mean, I still have my YouTube channel, so if you search for Alex Gracia on there, like I have random stuff on there, like from wrestling matches to like makeup tutorials to vlogs, and so like I try to stay consistent as I can. I've been hopefully going to have like more stuff on there soon with all this free time.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you just like want random stuff, and you can kind of just see in there, I have like 4 vlogs from Japan. That's like part 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
So those are sometimes like cool to reminisce on.
For sure. Absolutely. And where can fans find you on social media if they don't already follow you?
So on Instagram and Twitter, it's Alex Gracia 3, and yes, it's Gracia.
Yep. Gracia, we got you.
But yeah, it's usually the same all across the board. So Alex Gracia 3 on Instagram and Twitter. That's where I'm mostly active. I really don't use my Facebook too much.
Yeah, that seems pretty common across the board. Where does the 3 come into play?
So that was my varsity number.
There you go.
Yeah,
cool.
And I think 3 is just like a good number. You have like the trilogy.
Yeah.
It's like
Amazing. Incredible. Well, Alex, I certainly appreciate the time. It's been fun to get to chat with you, and I'm very hopeful that we will get to work together and interact in person, hopefully sooner than later, because I know we're certainly excited to see you come and work for Zelo, as well as just get back out there and start working again in all the promotions that you are working in, and then some, and hopefully one day, very, very soon, we'll be doing this in person.
Yes, thanks for having me. And yeah, like I said, third time is a charm.
Third time a charm. We'll make sure that it will be locked and loaded by the time it happens, and by the time that does happen, everyone will be ready for it.
Yeah, I'm ready. So.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it again. Stay safe, be well, and certainly look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye.
Bye.